see anything?
There's some Venezuelan's rib cage.
We're almost there. Keep moving.
It was recently in the news that actor Eric Roberts has the most movie credits in history with over 700 films under his belt. But I think Frank Grillo is saying, hold my beer, because yes, this is another Frank Grillo movie, and I suspect Grillo is going for the record. So this is Long Gone Heroes, directed by John Swab. It's got a pretty good cast. Frank Grillo heading up the cast here, Melissa Leo, Andy Garcia, Mekhi Phifer, Judge Hutchinson. So a fairly good cast. This movie reminds me a little bit of a previous movie by Bruce Willis called Tears of the Sun. It's that style of military action film. So the story here is that Grillo is kind of an ex-operator. He's an ex-military guy. And his sister-in-law is kind of like a senator, but she's been involved in some shady stuff. And as a result, her daughter, so Frank Grillo's niece, has been kidnapped and is in Venezuela. So Grillo gathers up a small group of like-minded military individuals, including Judge Hutchinson's kind of inexperienced tech guy, to go and try and rescue her. Now, things don't always go according to plan in these type of situations, as you probably expect, and they find themselves kind of stranded in Venezuela, surrounded by hostiles, and how will they escape? Well, you have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. So I have to say, I think this is a fairly strongly produced movie. Even though it's not like a, high-profile mainstream movie, I was kind of quite impressed with the amount of production value here. I mean, we have, firefights in kind of open streets with lots of kind of extras and, vehicles getting blown up, RPGs being shot and things like this. We've got a pretty good cast here, as I've mentioned, lots of kind of recognisable names. Some of them are in relatively small roles. And it has that sort of somewhat throwback action sensibilities, as I've mentioned, like Tears of the Sun, which I think is the movie that I would most liken this to. Our heroes, I think, are quite, portrayed to be the good guys, tough but altruistic kind of characters, whilst our bad guys, they are pretty villainous, killing kids at a birthday party and things like this. So, it's very easy to kind of root for our protagonists here, and I think the action set pieces are quite well done. I think they are well handled, kind of impactful, quite a lot of body shots and things like this. I think there is some nice world building here as well. Early on in the movie, when we kind of first get in country, we have this sequence where our group of protagonists are heading towards their first encounter, and there's just like skulls everywhere and bodies strung up, people hanging from the trees. So it really establishes this is kind of like a very dangerous area, and the people here have no mercy. And then we kind of get into this the aftermath of this massacre at some type of party, and again we see how ruthless these individuals can be. So I think it sets up that this is a very kind of dangerous situation, and I quite like the fact that these guys are really somewhat in over their heads, as they end up just going to rescue Frank Grillo's niece, but they end up trying to help a bunch of other people as well. This causes them problems, even though they're trying to kind of do the right thing. So I quite liked it. I think the movie is well put together on a kind of a technical standpoint. As I say, the cinematography I think was strong, the editing strong, music was strong, and generally speaking, it's an enjoyable, somewhat simple movie in some ways, but it's a fun film for what it is. What doesn't work in this movie, it runs about 2 hours. which I think it could have been possibly 15 minutes shorter, maybe. So it's a little bit young, and there are a couple of things here that I feel were kind of just brushed over. We're led to believe that Josh Hutchinson's character, his father, something's been going on with him, and it suggested that he's in Ukraine fighting the Russians, but we get people having like shifty looks at each other whilst they are sort of saying that as if to say that something else is happening, but it's never kind of addressed. Our protagonists seem to have unlimited ammo. They found the cheat code. They just seem to, I mean, they have their own weapons, but they seem to have a never-ending supply of you know, magazines and grenades and things like this. We never really see them kind of take other weapons that have been left behind. And there's certain things here, I would say, like when they're trying to escape, they're just walking through the town in like full military garb. There's no real attempt to try and like disguise themselves, you know, put a hat on, put, you know, a coat on, or even try and get in a vehicle. Again, that would kind of like help kind of disguise them. They just sort of like go through it. Obviously people are witnessing this and then phoning up our bad guys and saying they're here. It just seems like the protagonists here just don't seem the smartest people, I have to say. Yes, it makes for some kind of lots of firefights and action, but you're thinking, how are these people? They're just literally walking through the streets in full military garb with guns and stuff like that, and expecting no one to really pay them much attention. It seems a little odd. But that being said, it's somewhat of a kind of still a fun, maybe, but a little dumb movie in some ways. A good old-fashioned actioner with likeable heroes that have got a good camaraderie, bad guys who you want to see their kind of get their comeuppance. They manage to have a little bit of a personal connection and things like this. Overall, it's a fun but not necessarily deep film. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, because even though I think the movie's maybe a little dumb, it's so well produced for the obviously not massively high budgeted movie. I just think it looks good, and therefore I will give it the 7 out of 10. Anyway, have you seen it? What did you think? Please let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.